miles and miles. These things are sneaky and they're very tough to pick up on radar. And as soon as you nail one down, it just wiggles out of your hand and it's gone. So again, they just don't last very long. You think of them very much in a tropical sense. So there is that picture right there of, and again, it's easier to see this moving. So the one that came through, for instance, Dodge County earlier, southern Dodge, and then rolled through Eastman. If you're in Eastman, that thing rolled over you, what was rotating at one point. So this is something we'll continue to watch. We don't see anything, crazy with it, but occasionally you'll see it twist up, and it may, again, sometimes happen even in between scans where it's only maybe touched the ground for a matter of seconds, and then it's back up, and that's it. But it was enough to maybe pick something up. So the Cochrane area, broad rotation, but some spin going on here. It is a little bit brighter in this area right here, so we're going to keep an eye on that. If you're in Cochrane, your safe spot should be where you are right now as this makes its way on toward the north, and again, it's moving north at around 20 miles an hour. So we could track this out. I could go in, and I will just for a second here, I could go in and do a lot of street spotting, but it's easier just to say Cochrane in general. And that's a little bit brighter through there, still a little bit broad, but I think we've got some wind kicking a little bit. There's downtown. So this is kind of downtown and just off toward the south and east a touch here, where the highways start to split. So this is going to be, as you go to the bypass here, it's kind of where this is heading on across here toward the north, but just a touch northeast there as well. So yeah, it's broad, but there's at least some gusty winds with this. So let's stay down where we are in the Cochrane area and let this ride on through. I was going to do that track. And if we're going north at around 20, let's take it from downtown Cochrane and go north. And I think I'm going to run out of screen. Yep, I am. So I'm going to have to zoom back out a little bit here. This will give you an idea of who is in the path of the storm next. And obviously that's going to eventually go up into Twiggs County here. So we'll do this track, take it from here, go north at 20, and obviously Cochrane right now. But either around the Cary area or just a little bit off toward the west here, and eventually up crossing over I-16, and by then it may just be a regular old rain shower or thunderstorm, but just in case, we're kind of tracking ahead with different times here. All right, so it looks like we've maybe had a new scan come in. And again, it is bright in that area. We definitely have some wind going on. Not necessarily, usually it's bright green with bright red, and they're right knocking on the door together right here is usually where we're going to see that is where it's zeroed in, focused in. But I think, all right, so that's a little more like it. See a little bit more rotation right here as you go bypass. This is going to be, if you're familiar with this area here, this is right over town. All right, so pick out some of these streets right here. Ty Stokes Drive. Now, again, it's moving at 20. It's not sitting in this one spot. It is moving toward the north here. So go ahead and start looking a little farther up the line here. Country Club Road, Wood Duck Road, Grantham Trail Park Drive. This is, again, moving in this direction here, away from downtown now. So probably already made its way over downtown. Don't really like the way that couplet looks. I mean, it's not the worst I've ever seen, but it is a little brighter than what we had earlier as this moves over town. So again, I'm hoping that everybody in Cochrane has been in their safe spot. Again, moving at 20 miles per hour, it's in and out there and it's gone. And really the next scan that comes in, it's probably going to show it that it's jumped up a little bit farther toward the north here. And we'll see what it looks like when it goes there. Let's talk about, all right, the debris signature earlier that the National Weather Service was talking about that could have been brief. Right here was when it originally touched maybe the surface and then started to broaden out. Now, it would be too early to look for a new debris signature from anything downtown, but that could be some of that scattered. All right. Now, and again, this is on reflectivity mode, so this is what you would normally see a radar shot, and you can see the notch right in there. Confirmed tornado now is what it's being called. That is now confirmed. Located over Cochrane, moving north at 20. Hold on, reading a bunch of stuff here. Okay. So what this tells us is, for newsroom folks that are listening as well, that we might want to check in on Bleckley County and the Cochrane area, south of Cochrane and southern Bleckley County a little while ago, but now downtown. This went straight through downtown. And again, with tropical-like tornadoes like this, they're usually brief and they're not as big or strong sometimes, but they can still do some damage. And now this is more impressive here now as I look at this. So this is more of a rotation. Obviously, we're getting in closer to the radar site too, so it's going to look a little bit more well-defined. But it's in this area, and if I go backwards and then go forward again, you can see the spin going right over Cochrane right there. Follow this radar's up here. This is wind heading toward the radar. This is wind heading away. So it's where they go right here that they're spinning counterclockwise. And the closer these get, usually it's more well-defined on the ground. So definitely something going on right there. Let's check in on a few other parameters here. Not so much in the hail size. We did base velocity. You can see it on storm relative velocity here with some red and green next to each other. So we're already through Cochrane, but we're heading north now. And again, those bright colors there kind of scream out a little bit more, and then you can see it for yourself here, and you can see that things have really started to kind of blow up right through here. So came through the downtown area, through parts of Cochrane. Don't know if it was on the ground, don't even know if it is at this point, but it would be leaning more toward that it is, because now we're talking about confirmed. It is not just Doppler indicated. All right, let me see what else you got. All right, so I want to get some words on here. Some of the data that's coming in. All right, so hazard, damaging tornado, radar confirmed tornado moving north at 20. It was at that moment located over Cochrane. Locations impacted include Cochrane, Royal, and Cary. So the official wording from the Weather Service is a tornado is on the ground. So that's what this is here. If you are north of Cochrane and then heading toward a little bit northeast here on 129, especially crossing over, you need to be in that safe spot as it makes its way on up toward the north and a little bit northeast. And that, just doing another check because we have other areas we need to check on. I don't see anything else other than that one that was in Hazelhurst. All right, so we're just going to focus on this one. All right, so this is where I usually start the conversation of if you know anybody that's going to be traveling on I-16 in just a little bit through Twiggs, Bleckley, and Lawrence County. And this area right through here, tell them to hold off and don't head east or west or whichever way they're coming from and let this thing continue across. If you're in the Cary area, this is kind of heading in that direction. Now, again, the polygon is shaped, again, for a reason like this. You can see where it kind of flares out at the top, where it gives room for this to go one way or the other, and usually the point is kind of the direction it's going. But sometimes you'll see what we call a right turner, so it'll turn just a little bit, and this one may jog a little bit this way. We've seen that with some of these today. I'm really surprised, actually, to see this as visibly, what's the word I'm looking for, steadily there. Usually with these tropical ones we've seen, they don't stay very long. This one is still hanging tight here on the velocity mode. And again, normally you'd wait for the next scan to come in and see if you see this thing start to feather out. So far, I have not seen that happen. All right, let me check the debris signature map again. And let's see here, this is, I don't see a debris signature as of now on that part. There could have been, again, the only thing that we really saw that could have been something lofted was maybe this south of town, but so far nothing through downtown and beyond. All right, let's see what is coming in. All right. Keeping an eye on the band there. See, that's talking about Columbus. Okay, so they're still keeping an eye on it in Bleckley County. Nothing new. That warning goes until 4:45. Again, moving north at 20. So again, if you're going to be on I-16 or know somebody who is, from, we'll say, the eastern half of Twiggs County, where Bleckley dips in for a second, into western Lawrence County, this stretch right here, don't be going east or west on that right now. You can see the notch right in there. So it's still showing up not just on velocity mode, but also here with reflectivity. And you can see the spin even going on even in this mode. So let's go back to velocity mode. I mean, it changes so rapidly. We have to keep checking back on it. Now let's see here. This looks like, all right, what they've done is they have trimmed back. Cochrane is out of the tornado warning. And so what they're doing is they're just condensing this down as it moves toward the north. You can see it right here. Jordan, go ahead.
Just being a little bit more specific, when the National Weather Service put out this tornado warning in Cochrane, they said that a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado, which is different from what they were saying, that there was one on the ground. It was located 3 miles east of Royal or 4 miles north of Cochrane, moving still north at 20 miles per hour.
Yeah, difference in wording, you're right. Because now it's more like, it's possible that it could produce one, but if you follow this, watch the bright color right through there as it came through the Cochrane area. I mean, clearly something's still rotating there. It may be the cell itself as opposed to anything on the ground, but I want to walk you back. Watch as we go backward in time here, right there, through downtown, and then just kind of right around the bypass there, just a little bit northeast of town. That's where it was blowing up. And then if you compare that to what we're seeing now, it's a little more feathered out. Obviously, there's still something spinning right here. Next scan will tell us a pretty good bit. We'll just keep going around the horn looking at different maps here. That could be, let's see if that, I hear thunder here outside the station. That could be a debris signature. It seems a little bit removed. Didn't mean to go that far away from where everything is. Let's see, let's go back.
And they were saying 4 miles north of Cochrane.
Yeah, and moving away. So Cochrane, the tornado warning is gone for you. This has already moved over. If we look at this, some of this, it's really hard to tell. We've been trying to pick up on some debris signatures to see if something had picked up. We do know that it was confirmed, though, just a little while ago. That wording was radar confirmed. That was not anything from anyone on the ground, but it was, instead of radar, what we would normally be just looking at, watching it from the radar, more radar confirmed here. That was when it was over downtown Cochrane. So obviously it's still rotating, the storm is. The storm, at least. Now, whether or not there's anything on the ground spinning, not sure of that just yet. But again, if you're in the Cary area, this is making its way in that direction, and it is turning just a little bit toward the northeast, unless my eyes deceive me, and they sometimes do. But it looks like that's coming out of Cochrane, kind of doing this a little bit more. That right turn, just a touch. That would pull it more up toward Cary. If it turns some more, it would actually go on the outside edge. But once again, I-16's up here. Maybe we're dealing with something by then. Maybe this has fizzled out by then. But just to be safe, if you don't have to be on I-16 over the next 30 to 45 minutes, or maybe close to an hour, I wouldn't be doing that. Let's just check down the line here. The rest of this is in check. The one that was Jeff Davis County, Hazelhurst here, this has been staying just outside of Wheeler County, that tornado warning. So there is the big picture, and this is the big show in town, is this band. And notice how it's really lighting up as you get just outside of our area. From Hazelhurst on down, ton of lightning toward Waycross. So again, all this is making its way toward the northeast as well. Once this stuff moves through, there still may be some rain or a little bit later on, but this is the main big hoorah right here, and it's actually outrunning the tornado watch box, where there's a remnant of that still hanging around until 7 o'clock technically, although the storms will be out of it here in just a little bit. So this warning, if I'm not mistaken, was until 4:45. All right, so now we have, let's see, a strong thunderstorm will impact portions of west central Lawrence, northwest Dodge, southeastern Twiggs, and Bleckley through 5. Let me think about this here. So that's going to be West Central Lawrence, Northwestern Dodge, Southeastern Twiggs, and Bleckley counties. All right, so that is this storm. So they're going with wording of a strong thunderstorm for here. Some gusty winds here. This tornado warning, though, is still in effect for Bleckley County. Again, rolling north at around 20. So I'm going to put a stop on this, and then I'm going to go and do a track. We'll do it from the velocity mode where we can see this a little better, and it still has some bright color on there. Let's go north at 20. We'll take it from the center, which is a little bit on the right side of the polygon. We're going to go a little bit more northeast and drop it down right there. So rural area, not showing up as far as a lot on the location list, but as we get in the next 10 minutes or so, that should be around the time for Cary. And then Danville, which if that's at 5:04, that means somewhere 4:50 something to 5 o'clock is when this is going to be crossing over I-16. That's what I'd be more concerned about, because there are a lot of people traveling through here. So just make some phone calls and say, hey, look, don't cruise up and down I-16 right now. This is not a good time for that. And they'll say, where? You say, well, the eastern part of Twiggs County through where Bleckley dives in into just a little bit of Lawrence County, and eventually Wilkinson as we go on up the line. Thank you, Raymond. Cochrane Police Chief Jeff Trawick says it's pretty nasty. They're hearing about lots of trees down and power lines down. It's happening both east and west of town. There are very strong winds and heavy rain and roads flooding. He's out on the road now checking out a report of a power line on a car, and it's too soon for him to talk on the phone right now. So that tells me that what went through Cochrane a minute ago, it sounds like that was a tornado, and it was right through town, and that is what is continuing to roll toward the north, toward Cary here. If it's, again, not in Cary, it is just going to be on the outside of town. So the Cary community here, just do the same thing Cochrane did, and let's just batten down the hatches, get in that centermost room of the house, away from windows. Once again, if you're just joining us, Cochrane Police Chief Jeff Trawick says, quote, pretty nasty. They're hearing about lots of trees down and power lines down, happening both east and west of town. It makes sense because it went through town. So it is right through downtown. Very strong winds at the time that we talked to him, roads flooding, and he was out on the road checking out reports of power lines on a car. And we will try to talk to Chief Trawick when we get a chance. Obviously, his hands are full right now, trying to chase some of this damage. All right, so that looks interesting. It looks like we're going now with a severe thunderstorm warning. Interesting. As we still have some rotation here in northern Bleckley County. So this is going to take over as a severe thunderstorm warning. Let me read here. Severe thunderstorm warning, that's what I figured. Tornado possible. So now what we're doing is I don't see that the tornado warning has dropped off. They're going to leave that in place, I'm thinking, at least for the next 9 minutes and let it ride out to 4:45. But they're replacing it now where they blanket big severe thunderstorm warning for Bleckley, Twiggs, Wilkinson, and western Lawrence counties with tornado possible. So what does that mean? That means, well, we know we have a severe thunderstorm warning, but at any given time, this could touch the ground again. Now, right now, this could be on the ground. We don't have any verification of that. We'll find out here shortly. There's a new scan that's coming in. So still kind of broad, but a little bit nastier looking than I'd like to see here as it approaches I-16. Also, too, if this storm were located another 20 miles south, we wouldn't see it as well. We're getting in very close to the radar, so we're getting a very well-defined look at this storm than one that would have been farther away. If you have damage photos, videos, reports of damage, any of that stuff, you can text it all to 752-1309. The big thing is make sure it is safe to do so. Let's take what Chief Jeff Trawick is going through in Cochrane. Do not get outside if you're in the Cochrane area and there are power lines down and all that, because that's the secondary hazard, is people getting out and walking around taking pictures, oohing and ahhing, and then there's a live power line on the ground underneath trees or limbs or leaves, and you don't know that. And then you've got a huge problem. So I would stay, away from all that. And if you're in an area where there's some damage, stay in the house and everything, and till you know that everything has been shut off and everything before you do that. Jordan, go ahead.
Also, and just looking at Georgia Power, it looks like there are 477 customers now without power near that Cochrane area, and I would assume they would wait for this storm to pass before they kind of go out and start to repair any damages that are out there. And just to piggyback off of what Ben said. Doesn't like there has been a confirmed tornado on the ground just yet. We have seen some radar indicated, very little debris signatures in that rotation, but so far we haven't seen that confirmation yet, but nevertheless, still very strong winds out there that could cause some power outages in that Cochrane area.
Yeah, and that's, thanks Jordan, yeah, and that cell has moved through Cochrane now and is heading more toward Cary. Now at the time of that warning, that was confirmed, but now it's not. So we're not getting confirmation from where it is now. I want to point that out if you're in Cary. So this would be more of, it's possible it could be on the ground. I don't see the notch as well defined as I did earlier, at least some gusty winds right through here. Just a little bit out on that eastern flank here as this comes on up toward the north. So even if it's not rotating, you're going to have some strong wind coming through there. Let's go velocity mode here. And again, still broad, but as I talk about, if you think of this in kind of a tropical environment where they're usually pretty brief, and even this one still was somewhat brief, although it seems to have lasted longer from what may have come through Cochrane than some of these other ones we've seen today. They usually are not on the ground very long. And of course, we'll know after time, did it touch down? How long did it touch down? Was it just in a spot or two? Regardless of whether it was a tornado, it sounded like there's enough wind to have done some damage there. So again, quote from Police Chief Jeff Trawick out of Cochrane, quote, "It is pretty nasty. Reports of trees down, power lines down, east and west of town," which means the center of town as well, because it went right through town. Very strong winds and heavy rain. Matter of fact, let's do this as we're trying to get a handle not only on what's going on now, but what might have happened then. All right, so here's Cochrane. Let's go backwards. We're going to try to find, all right, so right through here is where you can see this was going on, what, 20 minutes ago or so, 20, 25 minutes ago, as it was coming right through town heading north. And this is kind of gives you an idea of where the rotation was. As we go backward, forward. So yeah, it was right through town. I would say a little bit more on the east side of town, but we'll have to see as obviously we get more information coming in. So again, farther up the line, severe thunderstorm warning, and that does include still northern Bleckley, eastern Twiggs County, western Lawrence County, southern Wilkinson County. So again, this has replaced the tornado warning for now. And again, one of those kind of days where once this drops off the map, that tornado warning in about 4 minutes, doesn't mean we're not going to see another one. This thing could still spin at some point. This has become the main game here now. And sometimes this happens. You'll see an outer band like this, and there'll be little waves along it, and then eventually something will zero in on one spot, and that becomes the spot all the way across here. So that is it, as far as I can tell. As we zoom out, just to show you, it is going gangbusters as you get from Hazelhurst on down. I mean, it is an electric light orchestra going on here. I mean, it is all the way down into southeast Georgia with a tornado warning and then another one there. That looks to be staying just outside of Wheeler County, crossing the river here. So that one is staying tucked away from us, but this one is not. What's going on in Telfair County into Wheeler, that's just a normal thunderstorm, just normal light rain in Lawrence County, just to give you a check in on all the other stuff. Farther up the chain, if you're in Bibb, Jones, Monroe, any of that stuff, that is just light rain. If you're in the Macon, Warner Robins area, this cell is going to miss you. It is going off toward the east and is not heading into Macon and Warner Robins. This is heading more toward Irwinton eventually as it makes its way a little bit northeast. Let's take a look at the really big picture. Again, if you're thinking about this in tropical kind of terms, technically not a tropical system, but the actual parent low is way over here in Mississippi, and all of this is on the outside edge. Again, when we talk about the dirty side of the storm, it is always going to be on that east side, and as it was coming on shore, the northeast quadrant is what we were dealing with. But you can tell, obviously, these outer bands, for comparison, even though this is not a comparison, but even when Katrina came through all those years ago through New Orleans, we had awful tornadoes here. These outer bands can sometimes be worse than the actual low that's coming through. So that's the big picture. And once we get in to the next handful, next hour or so, couple hours before it gets on through our northeastern county. Once that's through, though, that'll be it. I mean, there's some storm stuff off toward Columbus, but this is the main thing. Once we can get this line through, and most of it is almost through the tornado watch area. And just to show you, we did have a level 3 in our southwestern counties earlier. That's been cut away now to a level 2. But obviously, we're leaving that, heading into level 1 territory, and this thing still has a little bit of rotation with it. All right, so let's get back into that velocity mode, as we're not far from heading up on I-16 here in a second. And as I mentioned, if you know anybody that's going to be on the road traveling up and down I-16, east to west, wherever they're coming from, just to be safe, you may want to stay off the interstate here. Looks like we're already almost out of the tornado warning polygon, which only has a minute and a half left on it anyway. So somewhere in here, some broad rotation. If you're in the Cary neighborhood, this is going to be a little bit more off toward your east here, some of the gustier winds, but you can see I-16 right here, so we're not far away from crossing that coming in from the south. So technically, the tornado warning has a little bit over a minute left. That yellow polygon that you see replaces it. So that is a severe thunderstorm warning, so it's a step down in severity, but it has the tagline on there, tornado possible. And I think with any other severe thunderstorm warning or any type thing we get on this cell from here on out, probably going to have tornado possible if it's not a tornado warning, just to be in case, because it's already had the history of doing damage. So just waiting for each scan to come through to see if we see any changes, if we see that couplet tighten up a little bit more.
It looks like they just extended the tornado watch. It was initially for our southern counties, and now they're extending it northward, so towards Washington County, Baldwin, Jones County, Wilkinson, Johnson, Bibb County, even into Crawford County. So if you're in that area, we're going to continue to watch and see if anything spins up. Doesn't look like too much is going on right now, but we will continue to watch that. Another thing, a local storm report by the National Weather Service in Chris County. Emergency management reports of damages around the east side of Cordele, starting roughly 2 miles south of town on Highway 90. Damage includes downed trees and power lines.
Yeah, that looks like about what we thought we'd see with that, as the sun has come back out, as they're able to clear that up. But yeah, so the power crews will have a little bit of work to cut out for them. Again, it doesn't look to be a huge swath, but that's these kind of tornadoes that come through on a kind of a tropical thing. Again, they may not cover a whole lot of area, but it sounds like whatever, obviously the more populated area, the worse that can be, as what has possibly taken place in the Cochrane area with, again, quote, pretty nasty is what's described by the police chief there. All right, so that means that the watch has extended up. I just talked about that, the storms were outrunning the tornado watch, and so now the watch has been extended up. So that's smart. It says, look, this guy's already had a history of a bad player, so let's go ahead and just put a watch out. And again, the difference in a watch and a warning, we're just watching for the possibility of it. Warning means it's happening, and we do not have a tornado warning as of now. Now we just have the severe thunderstorm warning. I don't want to say just have. It is a severe thunderstorm warning. Regardless of whether this is rotating or not, you're going to have some strong gusty winds come through with this, and it's about to cross over I-16, already beginning that now. As a matter of fact, and it will make its way right through the little four corners here and then head on up into southern Wilkinson County. Let's check velocity again. Again, kind of broad stuff out there, and that's what you want to see. You don't want to see that couplet getting tight right next to each other with the red and green, but we can see that flare up. Now, there are two of them here as far as damage that we're potentially looking at. The first was where this warning initiated, right there. And that could be where it originally touched down. There was a debris signature possibly there for a little bit where things could have been lofted, and then through Cochrane or maybe just a touch east as far as town is concerned. But apparently, according to the police chief, lots of trees down, power lines down, both east and west of town. So there's damage I don't know how much at this point, but at least some damage in parts of Cochrane, through Cochrane proper all the way through. So this is, again, an area where we saw it tighten up here. It's a broader rotation now, and that's the way we want this to continue. But again, if you know somebody on I-16 that's about to be traveling up and down, probably a little late to get a hold of them now. And it doesn't mean it's a tornado, but it will be not a pleasant ride going through there. At least a blinding rain and some gusty winds, that's for sure, as this comes on through. So the Danville area, again, we're not saying a tornado is on the ground, but the potential is there for this to spin back up at any time. And I was just looking back to see. There was a little bit of hail with some of this, but at least the data I'm seeing just outside of Cochrane, there's not a whole lot. So it was mainly the tornado threat. So again, I don't see where they've added those counties, but I know they have. If I could go and do it this way, where we put the counties on the map. Of course, that'll necessitate the glasses. Well, we have the watch boxes up anyway, but as far as how far up north, it basically just includes the rest of our north and northeast counties with where they issue the rest of those the watch counties. Yeah, there we go right there. So this is what we're talking about. So it does now include Bibb, Jones, and on over toward the east here now. And it's basically to kind of cover this guy right here and anything else that may be around it. This is another story down here. Once again, Hazelhurst on down the line, just some tough stuff as far as just lightning and all that. I mean, they've got the whole thing going on there. And if you are in, let's say, the Lumber City area, let's zoom in. That storm has already passed you now. Just scraped by Wheeler County, the tornado warning did, staying in Jeff Davis County, but through Hazelhurst, no doubt, whether a tornado or not, there's a lot of gusty wind that came through there just a moment ago, and that extends on back down toward the south and east with more severe weather there. So that's where you see more of the lightning. We don't have a ton of lightning comparatively, but we definitely have had some rotation. Let's see if the, that's a tornado warning for Toombs County, continues, extends, okay. Just checking around the chat room, making sure nothing new coming on in other than the tornado watch being extended farther toward the north and east. All right, let's go back toward the Columbus area just to take a look and see what do we have coming later. This is going to stay on off toward the west. I do want to show you how Future View treats this as we go on through tonight. Let's take a look. All right, so this is going to show you this main line, which is obviously a little farther north than that now, but notice as we go on through 6, 7 o'clock, it eventually is going to roll through Washington County into Hancock and on around. So it's going to come on through either as rain or a thunderstorm, gusty winds, or maybe something rotating, hopefully not. And then it starts to peel away. This takes us into the later evening hours, maybe still a sprinkle or two, otherwise quiet. Then we get into tomorrow morning, maybe a little bit of leftover rain here. That's mid-morning, lunchtime right here. And this all should be tame. It should just be rain off and on spotty stuff as we go through the day tomorrow. A little bit breezy out of the southwest as we go through time. But then starting to clear more as we go into tomorrow night. So the heaviest part of any of this that we expect is what's going on now and what will continue at least for another couple of hours to get through our area. All right, so we'll take a look back. That's Future View of how this is going to play out. So yeah, the low will still be spinning off toward the west through Mississippi and eventually Alabama and places like that. But as far as the severe threat, this is it, what's going on right now. Again, that severe thunderstorm warning is for Bleckley into Twiggs, Lawrence County on the extreme western end, and then into southern Wilkinson County. You can still see a little bit of a notch going on right here, so obviously something's still turning. Let's go back to velocity mode, see if we pick anything out. It's broad, but it hasn't given up the whole spin thing as it's heading toward the north here. So this is crossing over I-16 as we speak. Just going to grab a piece of Twiggs in Lawrence County here, but then it's going to belong to Wilkinson County in just a second. So the Danville area is what this is coming through in just a second over the next few minutes or so. So kind of looking back on what's been happening this afternoon, it's not just been what's going on in Bleckley County. I can take this back. Let's go. All right, right here. All right, so this will take us back 3 hours, and you can see how the afternoon has progressed. You can also see, once again, if you're a meteorologist at the hot seat, the National Weather Service office responsible for issuing warnings, you can see how difficult it can be sometimes. You can see a couple of ripples. Yes, we'll do that in just a second. And you can see a couple of ripples here. This is one where we had confirmed damage. I'll wait for it to start over again right here outside Cordele. And that is the same storm, actually. That's the same one. It started to turn, floated over the Hawkinsville area, and then got its act back together. So it has been this one cell has what's been causing this problem. And it caused that problem in southern Bleckley, flared there, and then again right over Cochran, and has feathered out a little bit now. So no tornado warnings. We have a severe thunderstorm warning with tornado possible. And guys, I think we were talking about taking a break before we start the 5 o'clock show. That would be fantastic if you just tell me when, or I can go ahead and do that now as we try to get our ducks in a row. And of course we have crews not just in Crisp County, but in Bleckley County, and we're trying to get a handle on all these areas. And once again, as we heard from Cochrane Police Chief Jeff Trawick a little bit ago, quote, it's pretty nasty, lots of reports of trees and power lines down all around town, and that he couldn't talk on the phone right now. So hopefully we will have a moment to speak with someone in the near future. Obviously, we don't want to get in anybody's way. Yes, we will do that break. Is right now the time to do that? We're going to go ahead and, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and go to break right now, and then we'll come. Apparently we're not going to break right now. We're going to keep going. Just inside baseball, trying to have conversation with myself and with somebody else. But here is the latest on that velocity mode. This is a 3-hour loop again, so we have 1 minute until break. So what we're seeing is crossing over I-16 now, broadening out here, coming in from Bleckley County, but it looks a lot better than it did. If it stays the way it is now, then it's not that much of a threat. It is still a severe thunderstorm warning, but it's a lot more tolerable to do it this way. And you can look for yourself. You can see the difference in the intensity and the color right here as it's made its way across. Still the cell itself rotating some, but no indication that any of that is on the ground. So that severe thunderstorm warning goes until 5:15, and it just has the tagline, tornado possible. So as we go on through the upcoming newscast and all that, obviously we'll be watching that. Wilkinson County, places like that, and eventually farther up toward the north and east. So there is that big picture right there. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be back in a second.